Hello, I'm Michelle Johnson with Have Color Will Travel, and welcome to my studio. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I take a page from my sketchbook and turn it into beautiful watercolor cards. It's a spontaneous watercolor process, an intuitive one, in which we have very little control over the outcome of our painting time. That means that this can be a little challenging for those of us who, for better or for worse, claim the perfectionist's title. I'm one of those folks. But I do feel like spending time in these kinds of watercolor experiences can be very beneficial both for ourselves as people, but also for the people who love us, because these are the kinds of watercolor processes that can really calm the nervous system and encourage our creative selves to feel more confident about those moments when it may seem like we're losing control over the materials that we're working with. I hope you'll enjoy this video, and without any further ado, let's get spontaneously painting. This is the page from my sketchbook that inspired this tutorial, a simple field of watercolor triangles. Sometimes it's difficult to take the ideas that we love from our sketchbooks and turn them into other kinds of projects. So I thought I would show you step by step how I took this simple page and turned it into cards. Before we get started, let's talk about the supplies we're going to need for this project. First of all, watercolor paper. I've got some Arches 140 pound 100% cotton paper, and I've got some Canson XL zero cotton practice paper. This is cut to the size for a greeting card. This is cut to the size of a smaller card, more of an invitation size. I have obviously already taped these down to my project board. I was using frog tape. As I've said in previous videos, I have a lifetime supply of this, so that is what I use, even though I have heard that there are some really cool tapes out there. I prefer this one. I'm going to use the box of my frog tape to lean my project board up, so if you're wondering if it looks a little weird, that's how I'm going to do that eventually. We need a watercolor palette. I really like this one, it's super fun to use, and then I have a variety of paint. I'm not necessarily going to use them all. I just wanted to have a bunch of colors out. These are some Tambi Ganzai colors, some Korodake Tambi Ganzai. This is turquoise green, this is cornflower blue. I have some other pans here. This is a Sennelier forest green, and a Sennelier, one of my favorite, Payne's gray. I have a collection of Payne's grays, and I do believe that Sennelier's makes my favorite version of that. Then this is a handmade watercolor called Ruby from A Case for Making. It's a little place out of San Francisco. It's an interesting, very organic looking red. I've got a couple of tubes I'm going to use today. A cobalt turquoise light. It's a Holbein. Van Gogh's indigo. Again, I just really love this indigo. I have multiple indigos. Indigo and Payne's gray tend to be real favorites of mine when I'm getting to paint just because I want to. This is a ultramarine violet by Daniel Smith, and another favorite color, shadow green by Holbein. I have a brush stand. I haven't talked about this much, but I made this myself in a ceramics class that I took. It may not be the most beautiful thing, but it does exactly what I wanted to do. And then I've got two, I believe they're both size 6s. Yes, two size 6s. I really like a size 6 round when I'm doing play like this. This is a thirstier brush. This is a Princeton Neptune. This is it is also thirsty, but it has a little more of a sharp point, and it's bouncier or flexes back. This is a Princeton Aqua Elite. A good old reliable shop towel that I've had used multiple times because they're just that great. I have some test paper. So when this is the same paper that I cut. These are the spares. I use that when I'm making my colors, and I can test it out, see if I like a color I made. A squirt bottle, or spray bottle I should say, that's filled with distilled water, and my rinse water, which is currently clean, and some clean water, always clean, and a pipette. Let's mix some colors first. We'll set that off to the side. When painting intuitively, I like to lay out a lovely collection of colors that I think will go well together, and I let the process just lead from there. The key to relinquishing control in this process is to spritz your paper with water before beginning to paint. Once that paper is wet, I begin putting down triangles. It's kind of willy-nilly, I'm just going with the flow, Start from one space and just continue. As you go through this process, take time and re-spritz your paper. It's going to develop that paint out in a way that you just do not have any control over whatsoever. And I promise you, if you trust in it, it's going to end up someplace magical. The next step is really hard to do. You have to wait for the paint to dry. But while you're waiting for that paint to dry, get out some colored pencils. I like to make a frame around my artwork when I'm making cards, so I select a collection of pencils that I think will look nicely with the colors that I've chosen to paint with. Use the edge of your tape to be able to make a nice straight line. You're still waiting for that paint to dry, and as you do so, you can take the tape off of your paper, which is always satisfying. The paper is still damp, but that doesn't mean that we have to stop being creative. While we're still waiting for damp paper to dry, get out some cardstock and cut those pieces of colored paper down to size, either a greeting card size or an invitation size, so that you're ready, once you've finished your painting project, to make them into finished cards. My paper is finally dry, so now it's time to begin using smaller paintbrushes. I'm using size 2 and 03 rounds because I'd like to try and get paint into those crevices left behind the splatters and the pigment from the spontaneous painting. This is called negative painting, where I'm looking only to paint onto the white that's left behind my previous painting session. I chose to put the pigment on the inside of the triangle, but you could easily negative paint around this collection of triangles, which I think would be really, really interesting. I may do this project again, but this time negatively painting the outside rather than inside of the triangles. I like to select contrasting colors for this part of the process because I think it makes everything that I painted in the spontaneous moment stand out and pop. A key to painting intuitively is to stop and take a break when you're not quite sure where to go next, which is what I just did when I was working on the invitation size card. I really didn't know what direction I wanted to go after I'd finished filling in the negative spaces of the triangles, so I took a moment and looked at the larger greeting size card. I didn't actually feel called to add any color to that greeting size card, so I went back and added lines to the invitation size. And I'm really pleased and surprised with how well these two cards turned out. Well, there you have it, from page to project. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. And even more so, if you know of someone who might benefit from watching this intuitive, spontaneous process of mine, please share this video with them. It does a great service to my channel, and I love knowing that the work that I'm doing here is going to the people who really would enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.